Our next guest is a gentleman who I've known for just a little bit of time because he's been part of a lot of panels I've done. He's a music historian, a producer, a musician. He was previously with Sony Legacy. He was kind of in charge of the Elvis work inside the catalog. And now he is a musician and doing all kinds of stuff in A&R, which is Artist and Repertoire. Please welcome John Jackson with an incredible story of Hound Dog. I never know if you're going to have a beard or not. You know, the rock and roll on, my buddy. Good to see you.
You got to mix it up.
I'm so excited about this because they told me you were going to be a part of it, and you emailed me and said, okay, this is my idea, what do you think? And I said, this is like a movie. There's such a story to this. So we now present for you Elvis 101, The Curious Case of Hound Dog.
That's right. So my mission always is to expand the Elvis story. You know, it tends to get compressed over time, and people tell it in, 3 chunks, and the chunks go very quickly. And a lot of times even people think that he gets signed to RCA Records, puts out Heartbreak Hotel, goes on Ed Sullivan, and gets really famous. But there's a whole lot that went on, sort of in between that stuff. So what I like to do just personally is get into the real detail of what happened during a week or a day or a month or a year or something. And we did that a lot with the 70s material, trying to get people to understand that he was very active and passionate, throughout the 70s. And it wasn't just Vegas, Aloha, Dead.
And it's your work in all of the, it's your work in those releases and showing us for the first time, really, hearing Elvis in the studio on the outtakes, and Matt Ross Spang, your producer that you guys worked with, of letting us hear Elvis really being a producer. And we never heard all that. We only heard the finished product.
Right,
so
and scattered over lots of
team.
albums.
Yeah.
And, they all the albums tended to look the same, and throughout the 70s. So it's really getting in and saying, okay, this is what he was doing during this period, and isn't that interesting? And I think everyone in this room, at least, would agree with me. So, so I was thinking, actually, just talking to somebody after I had seen the Baz Luhrmann movie about Hound Dog, and we were just talking about he goes on TV a couple of times, and the story behind it, and gets in big trouble and this and that, and I thought, wow, that's a really fascinating story. So that we're going to tell you that right now, if that's all right. So if you go to the first slide, just a tiny bit of backstory about the original recording. So the original song was written in 1952, and it had been commissioned by Johnny Otis for an artist he worked with called Big Mama Thornton, and it was written by Jerry Lieber and Mike Stoller, who were not Lieber and Stoller yet. They soon would be, but he asked him to write this song. He writes her a song from a female's point of view about a guy that's taking advantage of her, and she's telling him to get lost. And it did actually really well. It was on a label called Peacock out of Houston, Texas. It was a regional hit. It sold about 500,000 records, so it did well. But what it really did was it spawned a lot of what they call answer songs and cover versions and rip-offs. They called them rip-offs at the time, which was people would just take your song, put some different lyrics to it, and release a slightly different version. And this was actually very litigated at the time, and Lieber and Stoller end up getting a lot of credit on songs that are based on this song. But so we just wanted to play a little bit of Big Mama Thornton singing her version of this song. So, louder. Way loud. That's Buddy Guy playing guitar, by the way. You guys are Buddy Guy fans.
And just because this is the way the Elvis world works, Buddy Guy's coming to Tupelo like September 15th.
There you go.
Yeah, so, because I have tickets, that's why I know that.
So next slide, please. So that song is recorded in '52. It comes out in '53. Again, it's a regional hit. Some people would have heard it. It was not a national hit song, but what it did do is it spurred a lot of sort of imitators and people that were either making fun of it or trying to do a different version of the same thing. So meanwhile, Elvis, as we all know, gets signed to RCA Records at the end of '55. At the beginning of '56, he is hitting the ground running as an RCA Records recording artist. So the very first thing they do is put him in the studio. He records 5 songs in Nashville.
And not RCA Studio B, this is the downtown RCA.
Yes, absolutely, yep, studio, the big one. So, I promise I'll get to a point at some point, but he does 5 songs. 2 of them, I Got a Woman and Money Honey, actually were national hit songs. Atlantic Records, a much bigger record label than Peacock, Jerry Wexler, Ahmet Ertegun, all of that. And very recent songs, so '54 and '53, and then the other 3 songs are brand new songs. In the end of January, the 27th, this debut single comes out. So it's Heartbreak Hotel, I Was the One. So what are they trying to do here? They're trying to establish original repertoire, right? So new songs that people haven't recorded already. And then his sort of filler repertoire are R&B songs. He's not doing country material anymore. He's not doing sort of ink spots, vocal group material here. It's really sort of hard-hitting R&B or new original songs. Obviously, Heartbreak Hotel gets to be a &1 song eventually. Not at first, but it sells 1 million records very quickly.
And goes #1 on the pop charts, the country charts, and the R&B charts. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
#3 on R&B. Yeah.
Yep. Next slide. So January, end of January, it's his first television appearance. This is the first time people get to see him. This is what Tom Petty described as like an alien landing in your living room. People have never seen anything like this before. And again, he does 2 up-tempo R&B, very recent songs. Again, both of these songs are on Atlantic Records, Shake, Rattle, and Roll, and I Got a Woman.
But doesn't do Heartbreak Hotel.
Does not do Heartbreak Hotel. Nope. Even though it was released the day before, doesn't do it yet because, apparently they wanted him to be a tempo guy. And Heartbreak Hotel and I Was the One, very sort of down songs, both of them, if you think about it. So what do? They need more repertoire. They need him to do more stuff. So when he's in town in New York, they get him back in the studio and he does 5 more songs. Okay, and again, My Baby Left Me, So Glad You're Mine, both Arthur Crudup songs. He had made his bones doing an Arthur Crudup song called That's All Right Mama. Roy Hamilton song, who's obviously, we know his biggest influence, Roy Hamilton. He was a huge Roy Hamilton fan. And he does Blue Suede Shoes, which Carl Perkins had only just recorded and released at the end of 1955, but everybody knew that Elvis should do that song, and they even promised Sam Phillips, we won't release it as a single, but he's gonna record it. So, and One Sided Love Affair, again, a new song. So,
and Blue Suede Shoes, really one of the most recorded songs by Elvis throughout all the decades.
yeah.
Kept
He
coming
loved
back
it.
to
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
And Carl Perkins, and that was royalties for Carl Perkins.
A lot of
A
money
lot.
for Carl Perkins, yes. It kept him in guitars for years.
Yeah.
So next slide. So February 3rd, they bring him back in the studio. He does, again, 2 R&B songs. Very recent, big labels, well-known songs. Lottie Miss Claudie on Specialty, Shake, Rattle, and Roll on Atlantic. Again, a Joe Turner song. So very well-known songs. These would be cover songs. The definition of a cover song is everybody knows the original version, now you're doing your take on it. Okay, so February 4th, he does stage show again, and he does Baby Let's Play House, which again was his own catalog at that point, from Sun. He does Tutti Frutti, again, a big R&B song, recent song. It's on Specialty Records, national label. Little Richard also doing quite well at the time, so people are familiar with this. By the time it's the third stage show, he's doing Blue Suede Shoes, which was a hit for Carl Perkins at the time. And finally he gets around to doing Heartbreak Hotel. So third time he's doing his new single.
Yeah.
Fourth time does Tutti Frutti.
And these are sequential, I mean, the 4th, 11th, this is weekly. This is like weekly
Oh yeah,
appearances.
these are the stage appearance. These are the TV appearances that the Colonel worked into his RCA contract. One of the most genius things the Colonel ever did was he made RCA commit to him being on television 5 times when they signed him.
Yeah.
That was actually a big holdup in it.
You could never tour and have that kind of impact that quickly.
Exactly.
In the country.
Millions of people were watching these shows, yes. So next slide. Now the debut album comes out, okay? The debut album in March 13th. The debut album is a mixture of 7 of these newer RCA recordings and 5 unreleased Sun recordings. And you can see what the track listing is there. Okay, so 5th stage show, he does Heartbreak Hotel and Blue Suede Shoes again. He now has hits. People want to hear songs from him specifically. And then number 6, he does Money Honey and then Heartbreak Hotel again. So those are the stage show appearances. Next slide. Where am I going with all of this? So by the end of the stage show run, okay, and again, you have to realize most people in this country have now only heard of this guy for 3 months, right? We've now heard of him for many, many, many years,
Yes.
but it's 3 months into his career. He's released 14 songs, okay, that people know of. I'm discounting the Sun singles. This is national, big deal record company. He's released 14 songs. 5 of them are old Sun songs. He's recorded 13 songs, so he still has 4 songs that are sitting in the can, waiting to be released. Lottie Miss Claudie, My Baby Left Me, So Glad You're Mine, and I listed My Baby Left Me twice. That's not right. See, you know. Anyway,
it was late.
There's 4 songs that he still has, that he has recorded but not released yet. And he's performed 8 different songs on national television. Okay, so that's where we're at the end of March. So what's he doing? He's establishing his repertoire, his new repertoire, and he's doing R&B covers. That's what he's doing. Okay, very well-known songs, R&B. Next slide. So April 3rd, he does his first time in the Milton Berle show, which, as we all know, is on the deck of the USS Hancock in San Diego. He does Heartbreak Hotel and Blue Suede Shoes again. This is what you do. You're promoting your songs, you go on TV, you perform them. That's what you do. April 14th, they fly him into Nashville as a one-off. He does I Want You, I Need You, I Love You, because they need another new song.
Quickly.
Ballad, again, down-tempo, ballad, new song. And then by May 4th, which is insane, the fact that you could record a song on April 14th, and on May 5th, they already have 45s in the marketplace. But that was the business back then.
And this was at a time too, you could, and this happened many times, you've pre-sold 1 million copies.
Oh yeah.
And you don't even know what he's recording. He still hasn't even recorded the song.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he was the only person that could do that, really, at this time. And so, I Want You, I Need You, I Love You, My Baby Left Me, that's the 2nd single on RCA. Okay, so by the time this is released, he's got 3 songs that are in the top 20. Heartbreak Hotel, My Baby Left Me, I Want You, I Need You, I Love You. That's a huge accomplishment. That's what he's out there promoting, that's what he's doing. Next slide. Then he goes to Vegas, right? Does a week in Vegas, it's supposed to be 2 weeks, but it ends up being a week.
Yeah.
Mostly.
And let me say this, because this is where I can
I thought this picture was really neat, by the way.
Yeah, we see that look later.
Yeah.
Colonel has now negotiated with Hollywood to get Elvis into Hollywood to make a movie. They want to star him in a movie. Colonel very wisely says, I want him to be in someone else's movie, not the lead, because the boy needs to learn the business. He needs to learn what it is to be on a movie set and to be in a movie. So Elvis is really a co-star in a Richard Egan movie called Love Me Tender. And that enables Elvis, as the secondary lead, to be on a Hollywood set. But here's the thing, he's going to Hollywood to be an actor, but he's really only done these few TV shows and regional touring around Texas and the Southeast. So Colonel books him in for 2 weeks into the adult playground of Las Vegas to prove that the boy can clean it up and be in front of an adult crowd, because one of the reasons he bombed in Vegas is because his fan base couldn't get into the casino showroom to see him, because you had to be 18 to get in to see him. And that's one of the reasons. And he was doing so poorly in Vegas, Colonel got the hotel to negotiate a thing, and they did a matinee with kids that they let in just so Elvis's ego would be like, thank goodness I still got it. Because he was out in front of adults, and they didn't know what they were looking at.
Yeah, they were used to either crooners or comedians.
Yeah, it was
the two things
Shecky
you could do.
Green, I wrote this down, it was Shecky Green, the comic, and Freddie Martin and his orchestra.
And there's the famous pictures with Liberace, who was performing nearby. I mean, this was like, you would go to Vegas. I mean, Vegas was in the middle of nowhere at that point, and it was one little strip of road that had some hotels on it. Remember the original Ocean's 11 movie?
Yeah.
The whole plot of Ocean's 11 is they're going to take down one telephone pole, and all of the hotels in the city would be without power for 30 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
Think about that.
That's all they
one
need.
telephone pole, all of Las Vegas. So there was like maybe 10 hotels.
Yeah.
And even in that movie, they all walk into the thing, and Dean's playing, and the stage is about a foot off the stage, a foot off the floor, and it's right by the front door. I mean, it was kind of a small
and the ceilings
operation.
are down.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just such a claustrophobic casino.
Yeah, and you see this is a one-story hotel.
Yeah.
It's, that was the new frontier. So, small thing, but very specific. Only very rich people could go to Vegas. It was for adults. It was for, the well-heeled. You would wear a nice suit. You would go to a dinner show. You would get very drunk, I think, and have some dinner and see some entertainment, entertain me. And Elvis's thing was not for those people.
Yeah.
So they do this one show, but while they're there, because he's,
His show was literally like 5 songs.
Yeah.
And 15, 20 minutes at
Right.
most.
Right.
His part of the show.
Exactly.
Yes.
But so while he's there, he's got a lot of free time. So an artist that they return to over and over again is in a different hotel called Freddie Bell and the Bellboys. Now, Freddie Bell and the Bellboys were, I think of them a little bit as like actually go to the next slide. Okay, so remember what Elvis is being influenced by in recording. Lloyd Price, Big Joe Turner, Little Richard, the Drifters, Roy Hamilton. Do these gentlemen look like they're people that would influence Elvis at all? I don't think so. They're sort of a watered down version of Bill Haley in the Comets, I think. With a saxophone, and it's sort of,
There's a trombone player, for God's sakes.
Exactly.
And
Look at all the glasses. They look like dads. But anyway, I'm a dad
Three
now,
of them
so
became,
I can
three
say
of those
that.
guys became dentists.
So they're a safe thing for these, again, well-heeled people to go see. This is sort of like, ooh, it's some fun party music, and they're doing a lot of comedy numbers, right? They're doing songs that are like almost parodies a little bit for people to go and sort of a mixture of comedy and music. So they adapted the Big Mama Thornton song the same way that dozens of other people had. They put out a small single of it on Teen Records out of Philadelphia. And it sounds like this, if you want to play that.
You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time. You never caught a rabbit, so you ain't no friend of mine. Well, they said you were high class, that was just a line. Yes, they said you were high class, that was just a
And by the way, I'm a saxophone player. He's got the most uncool he's got a baritone saxophone, which starts at like low D. I mean, it's not a solo horn. And he's got it in the publicity photo.
I know, clear. He's proud of it.
He is. He paid a lot of money for that baritone sax. Or mom did.
So what do you notice there? So these are now the lyrics we know to the song. So Elvis was like copying down their lyrics. So even if he had been familiar with the Big Mama Thornton song, these are the lyrics that he's like, oh, it's kind of it's sort of a funny song. And there's an interview with Scotty where he's talking about that Elvis just thought this was the funniest thing.
So it's really turned from Mr. You're a hound dog.
Right.
You're just going out with the ladies all the time. You're a hound dog. It's become to, you're just nothing but a hound dog. I mean, that's really what they've made it
Yeah,
into.
and barking throughout the song and everything. So it's really like they've taken this song and made it a joke, basically.
They
So
neutered it.
They knew. Thank you.
Good night.
But Elvis sees something in this. I think he sees that the crowd is reacting to this, and it's funny. You know, it's R&B based. It's 12-bar blues. You know, it's what he's used to. So he starts to, work this idea into his act. So next slide, please. And what does he do? So now what does he do? He goes, his next national TV appearance, Milton Berle show, which is on NBC, giant national audience. It's the first time he's on TV without his guitar. So what has he learned? He's learned that he doesn't need his guitar to perform. He can be a little bit more of a standard crooner who's standing and singing in a microphone. The first skit that he does where the girls rip off Milton Berle's clothes, you know that one. Then he does I Want You, I Need You, I Love You, which with the Jordanaires, which is completely expected. It's the new single. It's a ballad, very palatable to the national television audience. Good job, Elvis. You're promoting your new single. And then his second song, despite having lots of other songs to promote, lots of other songs that he has recorded and not released yet.
That's the important part. Other songs that are already recorded.
Yeah, and out. The whole first album is out. He could pick lots of different songs that would sell him records. But what does he do? He decides to do this song. And we're going to play the back half of it because it's the part that gets him in trouble. So we're going to play that. So despite even if he wanted this to be sort of a comedic thing that he was doing, he turns it into this because he's Elvis.
I think he went to some other shows in Vegas.
Yeah, exactly. So it becomes this dangerous, sexy thing that's now put in front of everyone on television, and it's like, well, why would you do that if I'm the record company, right?
There were a lot of parents doing that.
Exactly. It's at this time the FBI gets involved after a show in Wisconsin where they're like, he's doing sex stuff on stage. You might want to look out for this guy. Promoters and radio stations start banning his other music, and on June 13th, Steve Allen actually issues a statement saying, I may have to cancel this guy on my show. Because Dorsey Brothers, audience was here. Milton Berle is here. Steve Allen is here. That's the Tonight Show.
Yeah.
And, the biggest audience. So he feels like he needs to say, like, maybe I shouldn't have this guy on my show now, even though it was already booked.
And this was controversy before the age of being able to go viral immediately with something. This is controversy of phone calls and letters, and such was the reaction. It got that bad that quickly in the day before email and social media.
Oh yeah, local, people, it's that
Calling
famous
radio
footage
stations.
of the preacher that smashes his record at the church and everything. And it was very grassroots, anti-Elvis thing that was going on. So next slide. So he honors his commitment, both Steve and Elvis honor his commitment to go on the show on July 1st, okay? And he's back in New York, and he's gonna go on the Steve Allen show, and now Steve Allen thinks that he's gotta do this whole cover-up, basically, of Elvis and who he is. So he makes him do funny sketches. If you've seen the Tumbleweed Presley sketch, he makes him dress up in a tuxedo. And the most embarrassing thing is he makes him actually sing this song to a dog, so that there's no question that this song is about a dog, right? Right? Not about sex, it's about a dog. So if we want to play that quickly.
And at this time, it gives me extreme pleasure to introduce the new Elvis Presley. Here he is.
Does he look comfortable at all there?
Well, Elvis, you're certainly being a real good sport about the whole thing, and now I have a little surprise for you. Gene, can I have it? And that was just a great vocal group, the George Bears in the background. Elvis, your new record hit, I predict it's going to be one because I've heard you rehearse it. You're going to record it tomorrow, called Hound Dog. I got you a very cute little hound dog right here. And away you go. Who's that? Here it is.
You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time. Well, you ain't never gonna ever have, you ain't no friend of mine. Well, they said you was high class, well, that was just a lie. Yeah, they said you was high class, well, that was just a lie. Yeah, you ain't never gonna ever have, you ain't no friend of mine. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time. You ain't never gonna ever, you ain't no friend of mine. You ain't never gonna.
So obviously, very uncomfortable doing this.
And for the first 7 or 8 seconds of the vocal, the close-up is the hound dog.
Oh yeah.
Like they're not even sure they want to show Elvis. He may be doing something over there. And in that first little break, you can see him go, I'm not going to do it. You really do go,
He's told not to move.
Yeah.
Told not to move. So this infuriates him, obviously. And I was talking to Doc Walker on Sirius XM about, he had heard that the Elvis hated this tuxedo so much that right after the show, he went outside and he threw it in a trash can. And I said, well, I bet you that's true, because if he didn't, Angie would have it.
Yeah.
And she doesn't. So
Angie has the top hat that was on the dog.
she has the dog.
She has the
So
and Steve Allen even says in that, there's a song you're going to be recording tomorrow, Hound Dog.
So think about that. That's where we're getting to, is he has this major controversy over the course of a month where people are now hating him or loving him more, depending on your point of view. And he has singles out, he has 2 singles out, he has a full-length record out. This song, he hasn't even recorded this song yet. So how many singles did he sell off of this big controversy? 0. He hasn't done it yet. So he goes in the studio the very next day in New York City. He is furious. He's so mad. So if you go to the next slide, he does the famous recording session of Hound Dog and Don't Be Cruel in Any Way You Want Me.
And Robert talked about how
Yep.
Don't Be Cruel he had not heard until that day. They were listening to, he goes, oh, that one, we can do that.
Exactly. And he does 31 takes of Hound Dog. And this is the first time that people are like, oh, he's the producer. He's the one that's telling everybody what to do. He's not going to stop until he gets the thing he wants. And you can tell that he's furious about this. This is not a comedy record anymore. This is not a, some sort of a R&B cover that he's doing. This is now a mission that he's got for himself. So, and so they do it. It comes out, again, I don't know how they used to get records out so quickly, but it comes out July 13th. And it's quickly #1, and it is the biggest single of all time.
And notice it's a double A side.
Double A
so
side.
there are some that say Hound Dog, Don't Be Cruel, and others say Don't Be Cruel, Hound Dog.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just tell it twice.
Yeah.
Why not?
Exactly.
And you look at that picture, And they knew what they were doing. I mean, of all the footage of that, did he ever look like that? You black out that dog, and that looks like a pretty cool picture of Elvis, regardless.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's the biggest selling single until I think 1993. It gets usurped, but this is a massive thing. So again, I find it fascinating that he would have gone through this whole exercise of this controversy and sold 0 product from it.
And by take 31, do we know which is the master take that they use? Is it 31? Or?
It's not 31. It's in the 20s somewhere.
Okay,
But he definitely was. He kept them going.
Yeah. By this time, Scotty's bearing down on it, DJ's bearing down on it, and Bill's bearing down on it. Priscilla asked me on this stage one time, Tom, what's your favorite Elvis song? And I said Hound Dog, because of his vocal. And I didn't really even kind of know this backstory, but I said because Scotty and DJ and Bill were it's the perfect example of, if somebody said, what's the perfect example of Scotty, Bill, and DJ and Elvis? I go Hound Dog, because all 4 of them are like right there, top of the game.
Yep. So, you know, no surprise for its success.
Yeah. And that is the curious story.
A curious story.
Of Hound Dog.
And there he is, listening to the recording of it before anybody else.
There you go. John Jackson, another story from the archive. Oh, incredible. Oh, I love it.